to ride the earth. He stood at the window, watching Pris and the others gather in the courtyard below. She's just 17, he thought bitterly to himself. Too young to march off to war. He loved his daughter more than life, but the undeniable truth was that she'd passed her test of arms more easily than she'd mastered her poise. No surprise that when the priest came calling, bearing Orm's mandate, his daughter had been the first to commit. Whisper quiet, his partner drifted to his side, placing a hand on his shoulder, their touch light as the sun and as heavy as a heartache. She'll be back, Na whispered, and flashed him an encouraging smile. He sighed and nodded, wanting nothing more in all the world to believe that they were right. I just wish there was something we could do, he responded, his voice weary with resignation. They'd both offered themselves in Pris's place, but a pair of 50-year-old architects whose abiding talents was producing ever finer buttresses was nobody's idea of an ideal soldier. In many ways, that was what hurt them most, knowing their erect was useless at this singular moment. We need to do something. Anything. Na nodded and smiled again. We do, and we will. We will play our part just as Priscilla is playing hers. We will not be shamed by inaction. He looked at his partner, his face pleading for her to go on, yearning for some wisdom that would silence the critic in his soul. The Citadel Guard need more than just our sons and daughters. They need our support. Vaco Bondforger has called on... Overview. The Imperial invasion of Zenith is finally making progress. Spearheaded by the Citadel Guard and given wings by the Highborn Crusade, the combined might of 6 Imperial armies has proved unstoppable. This season, the Crusade continues. The valiant Pegasus has pulled back to Bastion to resupply, but the Granite Pillar and the 7th Wave continue to attack in ways that prove an inspiration for all who witness them. Last season, that crusade brought invaluable benefits, as the brave Urizeni flocked to support the Citadel Guard, bolstering their ranks. Hundreds of volunteers have flocked to Nicassia's banner, from fresh-faced recruits to gnarled veterans, and all are eager to drive the Druge from their homes. All of this was forecast by the Empire's prognosticators, but there have also been unlooked-for benefits from the actions of Vaco Bondforger, the Cardinal of Loyalty, who called on the Assembly to throw their support behind the Citadel Guard. An enduring loyalty. Everyone who was able to answer the call of the Urizen Assembly to support the Citadel Guard has done so. With the new recruits bolstering their ranks, the effective military strength of the army has increased by 1,000, just as the prognosticators predicted. However, the Cardinal of Loyalty, calling on the faithful to support this mandate above all others, has had an enduring effect. Spires, citadels, and temples all across Urizen have committed to providing additional supplies, resources, and personnel to support the Citadel Guard for the year ahead, bolstering the ability of Urizen to supply its army and keep it in the field. As a result, the Citadel Guard will not experience any difficulties due to insufficient supply for the year ahead, provided that Redoubt and Morrow remain firmly in Urizeni control. As long as no regions of either of those two territories are lost, the ability of Urizen to supply its army is restored until the end of the summer solstice 385 YE. At present, the Citadel Guard are not suffering supply problems, but that's only due to the detente with Salt Lord Kaliact, the Grendel ruler of Spiral. Technically, the terms of that deal end at the end of the summer solstice, so the Citadel Guard were expecting to face supply problems again next season. Now that danger is foreclosed for the next 12 months. The Salt Lord is apparently keen to negotiate with the Empire further, and the wily Grendel is doubtless planning to leverage the benefits of access to Spiral's people and wealth in return for more concessions. It may be that Imperial negotiators can use this new development to give the Salt Lord an unpleasant surprise. But whatever happens, Urizen can now be proud that the bonds of loyalty have ensured that the strength of the Citadel Guard will not be compromised in the year ahead. An inspiring march. The highborn armies that remain in Zenith have not rested on their laurels, but continued to press the virtuous crusade against the Druge, determined to drive them from Zenith. Inspired by the words of their generals and committed to the cause no matter the cost, they've thrown themselves against the hated enemy, determined to bring death to the Druge. With Dornish, League and Wintermark armies coming to the aid of Urizen and Highguard in their fight, the eyes of the Empire turn to Zenith, and the hearts and minds of all are lifted by the word of the victories that are coming at last. With their hearts stirred by word from Zenith, there's an opportunity for the General Assembly to build on the crusade and encourage all the faithful to support the fight against the Druge with the following mandate. The Urizen and Loyalty Assemblies call for others to join in this virtuous crusade for the salvation of Zenith. Let every priest in the Empire commit to the defeat of the Druge. We send this named priest with 25 doses of Liao to urge the priests of the Empire to tithe their strength so that we may bring swift death to the Druge. Synod Mandate, General Assembly. If this mandate is passed, it'll cause priests all over the Empire to lend their support to the crusade in Zenith. As a result, every congregation in the Empire will produce one less dose of Liao for the next season. The Liao they will have gained will instead be sent to Zenith, where it's going to be used to anoint hundreds, maybe thousands, in the fight against the Druge. As a result of this mass anointing, the Druge miasma will have no effect there in the coming season. Any Imperial army attacking in Zenith will fight unimpeded by the Druge curse, their spirit unbowed, their determination unchecked. In addition, every Imperial army fighting in Zenith will become unbreakable for 1 year whilst fighting the Druge in Zenith. They will simply never break, no matter how many of them are killed, and regardless of what opposition the Druge bring against them for the coming year. Even though the Imperial armies are terrorised, to destroy an Imperial army, the Druge would have to kill every single soldier. An almost impossible task. Both of these effects will last until the start of the autumn equinox 385YE, assuming the mandate is enacted. It's possible that not every assembly will be affected. The mandate will take effect if it is passed with a majority by the General Assembly, but it'll have no effect in Varushka, or, ironically, Urizen, unless it's passed with a greater majority. If it passes but does not gain a greater majority, then the penalty to Liao will not take effect in Urizen and Varushka, and the miasma will still have no effect in the coming season. But their reticence to support the mandate means that the Citadel Guard and the Varushkan armies will not become unbreakable. A clear threat. Urizen has suffered grievous wounds. The Druge invasion tore Zenith from the nation, a strike that ripped the beating heart of the people from their chests. Whilst they were bloodied and reeling from that blow, the Grendel armies invaded Spiral and were rewarded with the territory when the Senate bowed to their demands. Now half the nation lies in barbarian hands, not because the Empire didn't have the strength to stop them, but because the armies of the Empire were away, fighting elsewhere. While Urizeni magicians were being dragged from spires in chains, the Empire was busy, waging other wars. We've sacrificed enough, says Clytemnestra, and the Urizen Assembly unanimously agrees with her. The Empire constantly speaks of sacrifice, but the ineluctable nature of sacrifice is loss. Something must be given up and something must be surrendered. The last 5 years of Urizen's history has demonstrated one cold, hard fact. Those who sacrifice first for the Empire are the ones who bleed the most. We have sacrificed enough, says Clytemnestra, and she speaks for the cold fury in the hearts of many Urizeni. The armies of the Empire are here now, fighting to drive the Druge out. But for how long? How long before they tire of the campaign and the armies are called north to aid in the conquest of new territories for Dawn or Varushka? How long before they're called west to face the Jotun? What happens if the Druge sue for peace? Will the Senate leave the spires of Proceres, Lustri and Accursion in Druge hands? We've sacrificed enough, says Clytemnestra, and she calls on the Urizeni to hold the military council to course with a clear threat. The Empire will not benefit from our army if they will not save our people. For as long as a single region of Zenith remains in Drush hands, the Urizeni Assembly can enact the following mandate. Ambition, courage, loyalty, pride, prosperity, wisdom, vigilance. There are 7 virtues of the way, and sacrifice is not one of them. We send this named priest with 50 doses of Liao to urge the Citadel Guard to stand down. Your vigil is at an end. We've sacrificed enough. Synod Mandate, Urizen. If this mandate is enacted, then the Citadel Guard will disband over the course of the following season. One final season of campaigning will be completed, and the Citadel Guard will cease to exist by the start of the next summit. The imperial title of the General of the Citadel Guard will be dissolved. The skilled veterans of the Citadel Guard will not vanish when the army disbands. Sentinels will return to their citadels, sword scholars to their temples, and magicians to their spires. The ability of Urizen to defend itself will be dispersed and distributed through the territory. This is not unprecedented, as anyone who is familiar with the history of the Towerjacks can confirm. The architects who built the Heliopticon and founded the Imperial Law will find new ways to defend Urizen, but the nation will no more heed the call of the Military Council to sacrifice Urizen for the good of others. Poise is the practice of allowing yourself to feel your emotions as deeply as possible, yet retain perfect self-control. Practitioners seek to hold themselves in a state of equilibrium so that they channel the strength of their emotions at the perfect moment. An Urizeni cultural tradition.